want to show you guys a point of view of what it's like to walk through the garage. There is very little space, and my goal is for one day for there to be enough space to walk by without feeling really cramped. So it is estimated that around 2 to 6% of the population suffers from hoarding disorder. The features of hoarding appear to be very similar across different countries and cultures, and my parents are definitely in that percentage. If you're not new to my channel, you already know this whole journey that I've been on with helping my parents declutter their hoarder garage. But if you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope you stick around. Back in 2018, started to help declutter my parents' hoarder garage. I have a whole playlist where you can see the very beginning of that journey up until the most recent one, and it's actually been a while since I have gone in there and done some decluttering and organization, and I'm going to share in this video a little bit of why that is that I haven't done an updated video on the garage, as well as things that I've learned from decluttering with my hoarder parents. If you've been watching this journey from the very beginning, you might have been wondering what happened with the garage decluttering videos. Long story short, I got burnt out. I realized that I was putting all this effort and time into getting their garage as tidy as possible, only to find that every time I would come back in here to do another video, there would be more stuff added, and it just got really frustrating and overwhelming for me. And it felt like every time that I went in there, that all the progress that has been made, we were starting to go backwards. And a couple of months ago, I did try again to help my dad declutter his tools. But every time I would bring that up, he would make some excuse about not having time, about there's nothing that needs to be decluttered. And honestly, it turned into a not pretty conversation. And ever since then, I just gave up. For those that have watched this whole journey, I figured that I owe it to you guys to kind of share an update of where my head's at with decluttering the garage. And I also want to share several things that I've learned over this period of time where I started to declutter and organize the garage, and maybe hopefully help someone out there who also has really good intentions about helping their parents or whoever it is in their lives to have less clutter in their home. Because these are definitely things that I wish that I knew earlier. The first thing that I learned after decluttering my parents' hoarder garage was to have lots of patience and empathy. So many times I wanted to criticize or blame them for the clutter because I did not understand then how our minds worked differently. For me, I would look at certain things and be like, that's trash, that's junk, that's clutter. But for my dad, for example, he did not view these things as trash and junk. So in my head, I would criticize or blame them for having all this clutter and not really understanding how it got this way. Hoarding is a very serious mental disorder, and I did not understand that in the beginning. To me, everything that was in the garage was just junk, and I wanted to get rid of it all, but I knew that was not the case or how my parents think. I learned that I should have started small and gradual. The garage was a very big task to start with when I wanted to help them declutter their possessions. Now I look back and I'm like, why did I start with the most overwhelming, cluttered space in my parents' home? And to be honest, this was part of a collaboration back then with Dawn the Minimal Mom and other several YouTubers on, I think it was We Were All Decluttering Garages. Make content on decluttering my parents' garage, and I thought that was the best place to start, which was definitely not true. Not only is the garage really cluttered, but there's also other areas in the home that used to be pretty cluttered as well, and I wish that I would have started smaller, something easier, not only just for me, but for my parents as well. This was very overwhelming for everyone involved, and I just wish I started small, maybe something easier like the kitchen or the laundry room. Once I started decluttering the garage and I saw so much feedback and support on the videos, I just felt the need to keep going and going and going, even though behind the scenes There was a lot of conversations being had about why are we doing this? There's no point in doing this and things like that. But I was always coming from good intentions because I know what it's like to have such freedom from having a clutter-free space, and I was just so tired of seeing my family going in and out of that garage with the very little space that there was to get through. I got tired of me personally also just going through there whenever they asked me to go grab something for the garage, and it just was very overwhelming to go in there and try to look for something that they asked me to go grab. I would have to step over things, move things around, and just to get to the thing that I needed, and I could just not bear it anymore, and I didn't even live there, so I couldn't imagine how my family got through the garage every single day, and I just knew that there had to be some change. I knew that my parents weren't going to set aside time to do it. I know that it didn't really bother them that they had to go through this tiny path to get through every single day, so I just felt like the need to want to help and step in. During this process, I learned that I should not have forced them to declutter something that they didn't want to. It was definitely easier in the very beginning because back then there was lots of junk, lots of trash, lots of broken things. It was very easy in the beginning to get rid of most of those things. As time went by and there was less and less stuff in the garage taking up space, there are certain things that I found questionable that I felt like they didn't need to be there and had no purpose at all or whatsoever. And I found myself forcing my dad to declutter something even though he didn't want to. I had to understand that I was not going to understand every single decision of what my dad wanted to keep. And this is something that I really struggled with because it made me frustrated. I did not understand why this piece of broken chair needed to be in this garage when we could just easily throw it out. He would give me his reasonings as to why he needed to keep this broken chair, for example. And to me, it just never made any sense and I would get frustrated. But I ended up learning throughout the process that I'm not going to understand every decision and that I should have not forced them to declutter something, even if it didn't make sense to me. I learned that every little bit helps. In the beginning, a lot of people in the comments would tell me, this is going to take such a long time. You should just rent out a dumpster and throw everything in there. You should have every single member of your family helping. But the way that I approached this was very small. We worked in very small increments. And we did the best that we could with the resources that we had available. Not every single member of my family wanted to be involved or was available to be involved in certain times. Renting out a dumpster costs money, and that's something that I did not want to put into, especially my parents. This is not something that they wanted to be doing anyway, so there was no way that they would pay for a dumpster to come out so that we can throw all their junk. Would certain things like that make the process easier and faster? Absolutely. But with my personal experience and situation, we tackled this the best way that we all could. I learned that I should have used a more supportive approach. If you're someone who's watching and wants to start helping your parents to declutter their home, whether they're hoarders or not, my tip would be encourage your parents to make decisions about their belongings by asking non-judgmental questions. For example, when was the last time you used this? Or do you think someone else could use this more? If you have parents who are really open to change and are really ready to let go, they can have some clear answers to these questions. But for my situation, my parents were not ready to be letting go all of the clutter. So when I asked them these questions, for example, the answers were very passive aggressive and some just straight up didn't make any sense because they were trying to pull answers and create answers that just didn't really make any sense. All because they really were hesitating on letting this item go, even though it served no purpose, even though it hadn't been used for years, even though somebody else could benefit this more than it just sitting here collecting dust.
But if you have parents or whoever you're trying to help declutter and they are ready to let go, asking non-judgmental questions is going to get you very far. I also learned to respect their boundaries, understanding that my parents have attachments to their belongings due to emotional reasons, sentimental reasons, or even if there is no logical reason, I had to learn to respect their decisions even if they seemed illogical to me. I think this is one of the last things that I learned, especially in my last attempt to try to declutter and organize the garage with my dad's tools. This is something that he's extra attached to because this is his work tools. And whenever I would suggest to attempt the declutter, he'd say, well, I need all of these tools for my work, or I never know when I'm going to need this item, even though I haven't used it in 5-10 years. So after having that last conversation, I was like, okay, maybe let's just take a break. I'll stop asking when he wants to declutter his tools and organize them. And I've kind of honestly been waiting for him to approach me and say, I'm ready, let's do this, let's set aside some time. But all these months have gone by since my last video where we did the garage sale, and this conversation has not been brought up, and so I haven't brought it up to him either. I would love to at least help him organize his tools a little bit better, like investing in some shelves, as you guys have also mentioned in other videos, but that requires to set aside some time to do, and my dad just cannot make the time, or again, just excuses, because if he really wanted this to be done, we would have already had it done by now. I hope that maybe in the near future, maybe we can go back in there and at least organize his tools, maybe not declutter anything, because it seems like he's just not willing to let anything go, at least the last time that I spoke with him. So for now, I've just been respecting his boundaries, taking a little bit of a break, and just kind of seeing where that goes. I learned that making the decluttering process fun is so helpful. Obviously, you guys have seen my whole family involved in most of the videos. Sometimes there's just one other family member, sometimes it's everyone. Even my little 3-year-old nephew at the time, he was barely even 1, I think, but he was still there, and even him just being involved and helping out just also makes it more fun. After we are done decluttering for that day, after a few hours, we would always grab some lunch or a snack from our favorite places to celebrate our accomplishments and just relax and enjoy more quality time together. And the last thing that I learned was to take care of myself. So if you are dealing with someone who has hoarding disorder, you need to be taking care of yourself, because the whole process and journey can be emotionally taxing. So like I said, after we did a whole decluttering session, I would treat myself to a good lunch, and then after that I would go home. I would take a nice long shower or bath, and then maybe end the night with a really yummy meal and some wine just to decompress and wind down, because it is a lot. Every single time that we went in there, it was very emotionally taxing and very physically tiring as well. Those are 8 things that I've learned from decluttering with my hoarder parents, and also where my head's at today and why there hasn't been any new videos regarding the garage in a few months. I hope whoever's watching this, maybe at least one person found this helpful, especially if you're wanting to help declutter with your parents, whether they're hoarders or not. I'm hoping that my advice can help at least someone out there, because these are all things that I wish I knew before I got started when I started to declutter with them. For those of you who have been here this whole journey and have seen every single one of my hoarder videos, thank you so much for watching every single one and for all your support. And if you're new here, I hope you stick around. I do talk a lot about decluttering and simple living, so I hope you stick around, subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you guys hopefully very soon.